Okay, it is time to be you squared. We're going to talk about exactly what that means. It doesn't just mean get better, step up, get, incrementally better. I'm going to base this off of a book by Price Pritchett. It is phenomenal. And I have never heard anyone talk about it as well and as powerfully as he does. And so I want to give him credit for that. And I want to talk about what being you squared means. By the way, his book is called You Squared, and it's spelled exactly like what you see on this title. So Price Pritchett is an amazing teacher, and he is a coach. They teach businesses all over the world, and they're really amazing. So I want to teach you this concept because it will change your life. Because what most people think is that in order to succeed, in order to get better, we need to get incrementally better. I need to work on being better or work on my business and move up to the next level and the next level and the next level. And what happens is that is absolutely not true. The same thing with our mindset. We think, well, I need to work on being positive and I'll just get a little more positive all the time. No, that's not what happens. What happens is you do not need to create incremental changes. It doesn't require a massive effort. We're going to talk about that. And I want to start by telling you a story of what Price Pritchett calls the life and death struggle that he watched. So he is sitting in this room, and I'm thinking, you're sitting there and there's a life or death struggle and you're not doing anything, you're just watching it. But he describes how he's sitting there looking out the window and he's watching this life or death struggle. And he's just sitting there watching it. I'm thinking, what is this about? And what he's talking about is he sees this fly who is trying to get outside. And the fly is hitting itself against the window over and over and over again because it is trying to get outside. It's super important to the fly that it gets outside, because if it doesn't get outside, it's going to die. It needs to get outside. But is the fly trying really hard? Yes. He is making this massive effort, doing everything he can. But what the fly doesn't notice is that just 20 feet away is the open door to the outside. So with very little effort, the fly could turn around and fly outside and have the success that it wants. But because the fly continues to try to do it the way that he thinks it needs to be done, he keeps thinking this way is going to work, and so he keeps doing it that way. And what happens is he's going to kill himself. He's going to kill himself trying to get outside and to hit the result that he's trying to hit. So I just want to say that it is time to shatter the old way of thinking. It is time to recognize that we don't need to do things the way everyone has been saying they should be done for years and years, and we don't need to go through incremental changes. Life is ready for you to have a massive breakthrough experience, and it does not need to require a ton of extra work or a lot of extra hustle. It takes far less effort than you have given in the past to achieve some of the best things you've achieved by doing some great, massive effort. It is going to take way less effort than that to get you to this, what I'll call a quantum leap. And it is time for you to have a quantum leap. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that, because it's taken from quantum physics. Quantum physics is the science that has brought us things like laser, like space travel, nuclear energy, televisions, telecommunication. All of these things come to us because of quantum physics. And quantum physics is considered the most powerful science ever studied by human beings. So quantum physics has required us to rethink time, space, even how we think, how our consciousness works. We have had to reevaluate all of that. We need to rethink the universe and how we fit into it, and how we interact with it, and how our choices interact with results. Quantum physics is the study of matter and energy at the most fundamental level. What it does is it tries to explain the properties and the behaviors of the very building blocks of nature. So for example, what happens to a tiny particle? They want to get all the way down to the tiniest form of matter, and what happens to these particles. And what they have found is that when they're able to watch these particles, what they do is they're moving around and they make an explosive jump when it moves from one place to another. And as scientists are watching these jumps or these quantum leaps, it looks like these particles are making apparently no effort. It's not taking any effort. It's not taking any energy that they can recognize or see. And the other thing scientists are noticing is that when these particles jump from one place to another, they're not hitting all the steps in between. They don't have to hit all the steps. They just jump from where they are to some explosive new place that's completely different. Now, I want you to think about this, because we are made up of matter. We are made up of particles. And the argument that Price Pritchett makes is that we also can make these explosive jumps. We do not have to take things one step at a time. And what happens is we get in this mindset that we think it has to be one step at a time because that's how it's always been done. And so that's how we look at it, that's how we plan to do it, and that's how we create our business plan or our relationship plan or how we're going to change our mindset about losing weight or whatever. We think we need to do it in incremental changes. But let me tell you 5 concepts that I want you to think about and start thinking differently. Because, and I'll give you an example. It used to be that scientists knew that the human body could not run a 4-minute mile. No one had ever run the 4-minute mile. And humans knew it was impossible. The top scientists of the day knew that if someone actually ran that fast, that their organs would explode and they would actually die. Until someone all of a sudden ran the 4-minute mile. And do you know that for hundreds, thousands of years, no one had run a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile. And then all of a sudden, hundreds, thousands of years, no one had run a 4-minute mile. And now all of a sudden, within a very short time after that, John Landy ran the 4-minute mile, and subsequent runners started running a 4-minute mile and less. And guess what? It happened because all of a sudden, we saw that it could be done. But until it was done, everyone thought that it was impossible. And what happens is when somebody makes one of these quantum leaps, for example, Tesla did this. For example, Steve Jobs did this. Walt Disney did this. They made these quantum leaps, and then all of a sudden people can look back at the steps they took and say, oh, well, of course that's possible. Yeah, that's easy to say after the quantum leap has happened. But just because you can't see the quantum leap and you've been told your whole life that things have to be done sequentially and you have to do it step by step, that does not mean it's true. So I'm going to tell you 5 things that are really powerful pieces to this puzzle. Number 1, when you look at this differently, you will be able to multiply your personal effectiveness. There's a certain amount you can get done in a day. You know that if you have a certain goal, if you write up the plan, you know exactly what it's going to take and how long that will take. Get rid of that from your mind because you will be able to multiply your personal effectiveness and those numbers won't even mean anything anymore. You can take a quantum leap. The second thing is quit trying harder. You've heard the phrase smarter, not harder. But what the reality is, we don't really understand what that means. What that means is get ready to make a quantum leap. Think about when you are going to make an actual jump in real life. If you're running and you're going to jump, the first thing you do is not move forward. The first thing you do is you bend and move backwards in the exact opposite direction that you would think you need to go. Just like the fly. The fly is going toward the window. But in order to get out in an effortless way, he would have had to turn away from the window, away from his goal to figure out what would be best. So quit trying harder. And the most important thing is not that you figure out what it is you're supposed to do. The most important thing is that you figure out that you need to think differently. Quit trying harder. The third thing is think beyond what common sense would allow. That doesn't mean ignore common sense, or don't think about it, or don't care about common sense. What it means is look at what common sense says, don't throw it out the window, but then look beyond it. Go to the next phase of what someone else hasn't even figured out is possible, just like Bannister did. The fourth thing is I want you to make your move before you are ready. Let me tell you what I've learned from working with hundreds of thousands of business owners who I have trained and the ones that I've actually worked with personally. What I have found is that the people who want everything to be perfect and they get it all in order before they start, if they don't quit, they will be successful to a certain level, but it will be very, very slow. But the people who realize what they want, they don't quite know how they're going to get there, they jump in and they just start doing it, even if they're going to look stupid, even if they do it wrong and they have to start something over, even if it doesn't matter, they start before they're ready. And those are the people who ended up creating massive businesses. I have trained hundreds of people who are now millionaires, some multimillionaires, because they didn't wait. They jumped in and started before they were ready. Because what happens is when you jump in and start before you're ready, you have to figure it out along the way. This is something I was teaching some students the other day, and we were talking about success and failure. And I was teaching them how to do some things online and how to create some success on online marketing. So we launched some things that we were doing. We launched it, and now all of a sudden we're getting all these leads. But only 50% of the leads were responded to. The rest of them weren't responded to. And so I encouraged them by letting them know, don't worry, this is exactly what success is. We didn't wait till everything was ready to respond to everyone. Now, you don't want to waste your money, but what happens is if we had waited until everything was in order so that we could make our launch, what would happen is half the people involved start losing interest. It's getting boring. It's not exciting, and it's not something that they have a goal that they're going after, and they're not going to wait. So what happened is we launched, we now have all these leads. We can't let them go to waste. So we're going to respond to them later than we had wanted to, but we're responding. But I told them this is what success looks like. Success looks like you take the next step and you create a result. Might be little, it might be big, but you create a result, and you've also created another problem. And that's what success is. Success is you create a result that creates another problem that you've got to solve, and then you do the next thing. This is exactly why entrepreneurs love being entrepreneurs, because they love seeing the result and they love solving the problem. But entrepreneurs who get burned out, what's happening is they aren't recognizing that, oh, this is what success looks like. I created another problem, and that's a good thing because the problem came from the result that I was trying to get. So what happens is they look at the problem and they start to focus on, oh my goodness, I'm always dealing with problems. Instead of recognizing, I'm getting a result. That's what I'm getting. And now I get to create another solution, which is what entrepreneurs do. That's what we love to do. So make your move before you're ready. The fifth thing is look inside for opportunity. There are opportunities that you are not being willing to acknowledge to yourself. Whether it's because you tell yourself negative stories about yourself, whether it's because bad things have happened before, you failed before, there are people around you who don't believe in you, whatever the reason is, there are reasons that we don't look inside for opportunity. I want you to look inside and get back to that dream that you maybe have forgotten, or that you have given up on, or that you feel like isn't possible anymore, and knock it off. It's time to get back to that dream and dream again, and we will start to do this together. That's why I'm creating these videos. I'm going to teach you how to create success in your business. The principles I'm teaching are going to work in your business, in your life, and I want you to have that. So I want you to remember that your jumps do not need to be incremental. They do not need to be step by step. One of the coaching programs I teach is step skipping strategies, because you do not have to do every step. There are ways to skip steps so that you can make that explosive jump, and that is what I teach people how to do. It's a misconception to think that you have to do step by step, incremental, and one step at a time doesn't stretch you. Okay, maybe a little bit. It does stretch a little. But the times you've stretched the most are when you look back at those times, and I can guarantee you, you can find a few steps that you skipped, and that's why it stretched you so much. And you got that result faster, and you got the fulfillment faster. So it's time to make that quantum leap. I don't want you to be content with gradual improvement. You can do better than that. The business that I built in 8.5 years that has over $1 billion in sales, that could not have happened at an incremental pace. That had to have quantum leaps. And I'll just tell you right now, those quantum leaps were not always from me. It's because I used resources, and people can be resources, partners can be resources. I used resources outside of myself who helped make that happen. I could never have done that by myself. But that quantum leap happened because, first of all, I had to believe it was going to happen, and I had to not give up. So that's what I want for you. And I want you to remember, don't just think different, be different.